A local veteran finally has the recognition he deserves. Today, Norman Ross was honored for service to our country 58 years ago. News Channel 5's Gene Apodaca attended the ceremony, and he's joining us tonight from the Sun Sentinel newsroom. Gene.
Well, Jim, 58 years ago, Norman Ross proudly defended this country in World War II. Well, today his country tried to pay him back in a ceremony that was long overdue.
Forward! March!
Well, for service that prides itself on getting underway on time, we are a bit late.
They were words Norman Ross waited nearly 60 years to hear.
Congratulations. Well done.
A day when this retired Navy airman finally got the recognition he deserves.
They mean to me as a sacrifice for a cause, and a cause that I believe in.
In World War II, Ross flew an amazing 60 combat missions, each one a considerable success. But for years, Ross refused to talk about his accomplishments. The memories of losing fellow soldiers was nearly too much to bear.
We went and we did a job.
Not until recently did Ross begin thinking about his legacy. He gathered up his old logbook and had the Navy review it. It was then the Navy realized they owed Ross a big honor, awarding him 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 10 Air Medals. His family couldn't be more proud.
The 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses that I have, I'll keep one. One is for me, and the other one is for thee. The boys I left behind. Thank you.
Now, after leaving the military, Ross became a school teacher. He actually taught high school and actually was the coach for soccer. 2 of his children followed in his footsteps, both having served in the military. Live in the Sun Sentinel newsroom, I'm Gene Apodaca, News Channel 5.
Congratulations, Mr. Ross. Well deserved. Better late than never.
Elliot Cohen talked to the former sailor about his overdue honors as part of our series of reports, The Front Line Then and Now. Elliot?
Well, Tom, Norman Ross flew 60 combat missions in World War II over 2 separate oceans. As a member of Fleet Air Wing 7, he sank countless U-boats. But not until today in Delray Beach at the age of 79 did the Navy recognize his service to his country.
The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Distinguished Flying Cross with Gold Star for the 2nd award to Aviation Radioman 2nd Class Norman Ross, United States Naval Reserve.
Your nation and your state are grateful for your contributions to the defense of freedom and the American way of life.
Barely out of high school, he awoke to the whine of Pratt and Whitney engines. His heart matched beat for beat the burst of Nazi flak.
We are a bit late in awarding these richly deserved medals.
Norman Ross has lived a lifetime since his years as a gunner in World War II, and today, almost 60 years later, the Navy finally recognized Ross's service to his country. Ross was awarded 9 Air Medals and 2 Distinguished Crosses, one of which he dedicated to his fellow sailors left behind 60 years ago.
The boys I left behind. Thank you. We left them over there. They're 18 and they're buried in some foreign country, and I feel that the medals that I'm getting now are in many ways I share with them.
Now, Ross told me receiving the medals now means more to him than it would have as a young boy. He said he was just a kid out of high school. Today, he says, he truly appreciates the sacrifice that they represent. Reporting live, Elliot Cohen, WPBF Eyewitness News.
Delray Beach man made his courageous air combat missions in World War II.
It's taken that long for the Navy to recognize his valor, but finally his medals are on the way.
Sean Kelly continues our 13 minutes of uninterrupted news. And Sean, why has it taken so long?
Tom, Tiffany, some of the pilots in his Navy squadron didn't do a very good job at keeping track of their combat missions. No one knew how many medals 78-year-old Norman Ross earned, and he may have never known either had he never asked.
That's December 1942. How many years is that now? 60, right?
The scrapbook Norman Ross keeps with the help of his wife is a condensed history of his patriotic service during World War II. There are pictures of Ross in his crisp Navy uniform and snapshots of B-24 Liberators like the ones he flew in dozens of times as a gunner and radio operator. What's missing are the stories about combat. Ross has always been troubled by those.
It's been very difficult to talk about it to anybody, even in the family, about, stories, war stories, that kind of thing.
This retired teacher has spent the last 60 years waking up from nightmares about war. He flew in 60 air combat missions. A small frame filled with medals has been his decoration for heroism.
People know me as a teacher, an English teacher, somebody who performed in little shows here in the condo, as a golfer, and I would like them to know that there's a little more depth to me than that.
A couple months ago, Ross decided to contact the Navy for a review of his service.
I sent these copies of this to the Navy Department.
He held copies of his combat flight log. Most of them had never been recorded by Navy clerks during the war. The Navy failed to recognize Ross's valor for all these years.
And I was like overwhelmed by the quantity of what I was supposed to receive. 9 additional air medals and 2 distinguished flying crosses.
Any day now, Ross expects his medals to arrive at the door in unceremonious fashion. But for him, the new decorations will be a cleansing of difficult emotions from war, and they'll tell stories about Ross's courage without him saying a word. The Southern Command of the United States Navy plans on having a proper medal presentation ceremony for Ross sometime at the end of January. Fitting honor.
Yeah, others are
Maybe it'll give him more sense of closure.